Eli found the old kite tangled in a bush behind his grandmother's garden. Its faded red cloth fluttered in the autumn breeze, and its tail trailed ribbons worn thin by time. He carefully untangled it, smoothing the creases with gentle fingers, and tied the string securely around his wrist. There was no wind, yet when Eli raised the kite, it leapt from his hands, soaring higher and higher into the clear blue sky. He ran across the empty field, laughing as the kite danced above, dipping and spinning on its own, as if guided by an unseen hand. Suddenly, the kite tugged harder, lifting Eli's feet off the ground. Startled, he clung tightly to the string as the earth below began to shrink away. The world transformed into a patchwork quilt of golden fields and winding rivers stretching far beyond the horizon. The kite carried him over dense forests, across sparkling lakes that shimmered like jewels, and through fluffy clouds that tasted faintly like sugar. Time seemed to stretch and bend as the boy soared higher, heart pounding with wonder. When the journey finally ended, the kite gently lowered Eli back to the garden where it all began. He landed softly on the grass, breathless and filled with delight. The kite settled beside him, its fabric glowing with a gentle, warm light. Eli grinned, knowing he would never look at the sky the same way again.
Thunder cracked as a silver-furred squirrel named Lyra darted beneath towering pines, her heart thumping with fierce determination. The forest was a blur of wind and rain, branches whipping and leaves swirling like wild spirits unleashed. Moments earlier, Lyra had glimpsed the legendary acorn, a shimmering orb of emerald and gold, tumble from an ancient oak, rolling deeper into the storm-churned woods. Legends whispered that whoever claimed the acorn would be granted wisdom beyond measure, a gift sought by many, but held by none. Lightning flashed, illuminating the acorn as it bounced along a mossy log and plunged into a babbling creek swollen with rain. Without hesitation, Lyra leapt, landing with a splash, her paws scrambling against slick stones as the cold water rushed past. The current tugged at her slender frame, but she pressed on, never losing sight of the glowing prize. At last, the acorn snagged on a twisted root beneath the water's surface. With a triumphant squeak, Lyra snatched it up, warmth and light pulsing through her tiny body. The storm faded as if in reverence, and the forest hushed in awe, leaves stilling and birds pausing their calls. Clutching her prize, Lyra gazed upward with newfound understanding, the mysteries of the woods unfolding before her eyes.
Ellie wandered through the attic, dust motes swirling in golden shafts of sunlight. Something odd caught her eye, a clock, ancient and gleaming, its hands spinning in reverse with a soft, rhythmic ticking. Drawn by curiosity, she pressed her finger to the cool glass face. Instantly, the air shimmered, and the attic around her began to fade away like mist. She found herself standing in a bustling marketplace, where people wore clothes stitched with moving lights and walked beside metallic animals that clicked softly with each step. A gentle voice echoed nearby, "Welcome, keeper." Ellie turned to see an elderly woman with eyes like polished silver, her smile warm and knowing. "You found the portal clock," the woman said. "It chooses adventurers to explore beyond." Ellie's heart pounded with excitement and wonder. The woman handed her a key shaped like a tiny gear, cool and heavy in her palm. "Every tick opens a new world," she explained. "But remember, time here is precious and fleeting." Ellie wandered through the strange place, marveling at floating gardens that drifted lazily above and sky trains that hummed silently through the clouds. When the clock chimed, a soft bell ringing through the air, she was whisked back to the attic, the key still clutched tightly in her hand. The clock's hand stilled once more, but Ellie knew her world had grown immeasurably larger. She hid the key carefully, her heart racing with anticipation, ready for the next time the clock would call her to adventure again. Eli wandered through the cluttered shop, dust motes dancing in golden sunlight filtering through cracked windows. The old clockmaker had vanished months ago, leaving behind countless ticking relics and unanswered questions that whispered through the air. Behind a faded, moth-eaten curtain, Eli discovered a curious device unlike any clock he'd seen. Bronze gears interlocked with delicate glass orbs, and a dial etched with tomorrow's date. With trembling fingers, he twisted the dial. Instantly, the machine whirred to life, projecting a shimmering, ghostly image onto the wall. A vision of the town square, empty except for a red kite tangled high in a tree's branches. Heart pounding, Eli raced outside, the afternoon sun warm on his face. Hours later, the wind carried a red kite above the rooftops, just as he had seen. A small voice cried, "Help!" Eli followed the sound and freed the kite from its prison. The grateful child smiled, eyes wide with wonder. That night, Eli returned to the machine. The dial now showed the next day's date. He realized each twist revealed a glimpse of what was to come, but never how or why. Eli understood the clockmaker's secret. Time could be seen, but never controlled. He left the machine untouched, cherishing the fragile wonder of each unfolding moment. Beneath the steady whir of gears and the sharp scent of oil, the inventor toiled alone in his cramped attic workshop. His only companions were scattered blueprints and gleaming brass parts, the silence broken solely by the rhythmic ticking of countless clocks. Nights stretched endlessly, the world outside muffled and distant, as if time itself had paused. Yearning for something more than solitude, he gathered tiny cogs, delicate springs, and feathers crafted from polished tin. With patient hands, he assembled a fragile sparrow, winding its heart carefully with a silver key. When he finally set it free, the bird flitted gracefully to his shoulder, chirping a melody that echoed with unexpected warmth. It hopped along the dusty windowsill, trilling softly as sunlight danced upon its metallic wings. The inventor smiled, feeling his loneliness soften in the gentle company. The sparrow perched beside his morning tea, settled atop half-finished sketches, always near. In its bright mechanical song he found comfort, an answer to the ache that filled the quiet hours. The attic no longer felt so empty or cold. Each day as he wound the sparrow's heart anew, he remembered that hope can be built, piece by piece, and sometimes companionship arrives in the whir of tiny wings. Ellie watched the moon every night from her window, sketching its craters with a stubby pencil. One evening, she noticed something odd, a faint, golden glimmer tracing the edge of a crater she'd never seen before. Curiosity pulled her outside, barefoot and shivering in the cool night dew. With her old telescope, she adjusted the lens carefully, heart pounding with excitement. The glimmer resolved into a pattern, tiny, intricate gears turning slowly beneath the moon's surface. She blinked, convinced it was a trick of the glass, but the gears kept spinning, casting shifting shadows across the lunar plains. Ellie gasped as a hatch opened, releasing a soft pulse of blue light that bathed the craters in an eerie glow. Tiny silhouettes, no larger than ants, emerged and shuffled along the machinery, tightening screws and oiling cogs with delicate precision. The moon wasn't just a rock, it was a colossal ancient device, alive with hidden purpose. Ellie's breath fogged the telescope lens as she whispered, "Who built you? Why?" The gears turned faster, as if answering her silent questions. The next morning, the moon hung unchanged in the sky, but Ellie knew its secret, a secret she'd guard forever, her own clockwork wonder ticking quietly in the night. Anna discovered the key while dusting the attic, its bronze surface dulled by years of neglect and coated in a thin layer of dust. She couldn't remember ever seeing it before, but it fit perfectly into the small, locked drawer of her old bedside table. The drawer contained only a faded photograph of a house she didn't recognize, yet something about it felt oddly familiar, stirring a quiet unease within her. That night, as the clock struck midnight, Anna woke to a soft tapping echoing through her room. At first, she thought it was rain against the window, but the sky was clear and still. The tapping grew louder, joined by the creak of floorboards and the faint sound of humming, as if someone wandered the hallway just outside her door. Anna clutched the key tightly, her heart pounding in her chest. Suddenly, the noises stopped as abruptly as they had begun. The next night, the same sounds returned, but this time, the humming grew into a low, melodic whisper that seemed to call her name. She pressed her ear to the drawer. The photograph inside vibrated faintly against the wood, as if longing to be seen and understood. Anna realized the key had not only unlocked the drawer, but also something else. Something that belonged to the night, something forgotten and eager to be remembered once more. Mira spent her days tending the village gardens, her hands always stained with earth and her heart full of quiet hope. One crisp morning, as dew sparkled like tiny jewels on the leaves, she found something unusual tucked beneath a rose bush. A seed, smooth and golden, glinting mysteriously in the soft sunlight. Mira, ever curious and gentle, planted it in the richest soil at the very heart of her garden. She watered it carefully each day, whispering her hopes for a beautiful bloom to come. Days passed, and the seed sprouted quickly, growing at an astonishing pace. Its leaves shimmered with a soft, otherworldly glow, and the stem wound skyward, taller than any sunflower she had ever seen. On the seventh day, a single flower blossomed, its petals like spun gold, radiant and warm. As Mira leaned closer, the flower slowly unfurled further, revealing a hidden compartment nestled within its heart. Inside lay a tiny crystal vial, filled with a sparkling, liquid light. Mira uncorked it, and the scent of honey and fresh rain filled the air, sweet and invigorating. Suddenly, every plant in her garden began to flourish. Roses burst into vibrant color, vines twined joyfully around trellises, and vegetables ripened overnight, plump and perfect. Mira realized the golden seed had gifted her garden a secret, the power to thrive beyond imagination, a magic that would nourish her village for seasons to come.
Under the pale gleam of a full moon, Lila wandered her grandmother's orchard, the trees whispering softly with the gentle touch of night air. She paused, breath-catching, as a faint glow shimmered mysteriously among the branches. There, nestled between dark leaves, hung an apple brighter than any lantern, its silver light pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Heart-pounding, Lila reached up and plucked it, feeling a gentle warmth spread through her fingers. The apple's smooth skin shimmered, revealing swirling patterns like tiny constellations dancing across its surface. Curious and entranced, Lila took a cautious bite. Instantly, memories not her own danced vividly behind her eyes. The orchard as it was a century ago, laughter of generations long past, secret meetings beneath the trees, and a promise whispered quietly to the moon. The apple's light slowly faded, but in its place, Lila found knowledge, a hidden gate at the orchard's edge, overgrown with moss and nearly forgotten, leading to a secret grove. Guided by the soft moonlight, she discovered the grove, where ancient roots and new dreams intertwined beneath the stars. The orchard's secret was safe with her now, a legacy shining quietly in the night, waiting to be cherished once more. Dust danced in the shafts of sunlight as Mila and Theo climbed into the attic, hearts thumping with excitement. Their grandmother's stories always hinted at secrets tucked away in forgotten corners of the old house. Today, curiosity pulled them toward a battered trunk beneath a slanted beam, its surface worn and covered in cobwebs. Inside, they found an old quilt, the fabric faded, but the stitches still strong and intricate. Spread across the creaky wooden floor, the quilt revealed a patchwork of colors and shapes, each square telling a silent story. But it was the tiny, careful embroidery on one corner that caught Mila's eye. She traced the swirling thread and read aloud, "Look beneath the rose." They searched the quilt carefully, finding a rose-shaped patch near the center. Gently, Theo lifted the stitches, revealing a folded slip of paper hidden inside. The note, written in their grandmother's looping script, said, "True treasures are found together." Smiling, they sat side by side, the quilt wrapped around their shoulders. In the quiet attic, surrounded by memories and dust, they realized the secret wasn't gold or jewels, but the adventure and bond they shared. Sophie's fingers trembled as she opened her battered violin case, only to find it empty. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. The old violin was more than wood and strings. It was her grandfather's gift, the instrument she'd cherished and played since childhood. Panic rising, she retraced her steps through the city's bustling streets, questioning shopkeepers and street performers, hoping someone had seen it. At the park, as twilight settled, she heard a faint melody, her melody, floating softly on the evening air. Drawn by the sound, Sophie found a boy sitting under a large oak tree, playing her violin with closed eyes and a gentle smile. She approached quietly, torn between anger and awe. The boy looked up, startled. "I found it by the cafe," he said softly. "I'm sorry, I just wanted to feel the music." Sophie hesitated, then sat beside him. Together, they played, letting the music bridge the gap between loss and understanding. When the last note faded, Sophie thanked him and took her violin home, its voice richer for the journey, her heart lighter for the kindness she'd found in an unexpected place. At midnight, Maggie zipped through the city on her battered scooter, a hot pizza strapped to her back. She had a secret. With a snap of her fingers, her scooter surged forward faster than any rival. Tonight, shadowy figures lurked in alleyways, hoping to intercept her precious cargo. But Maggie was ready. At every corner, she anticipated their moves, weaving past obstacles with uncanny precision. One thief lunged, but Maggie's scooter vanished, reappearing behind him. Minutes later, she delivered the pizza, still piping hot. Her customers always wondered how she did it. She just winked.
Beneath the towering shelves of the old library, a small gray mouse named Pip scurried quietly, his nose twitching at the faintest scent of cheese. The library was a vast maze of forgotten tomes and thick dust, but Pip had long heard tales whispered among the mice of a legendary cheese once hidden by the librarian many years ago. One quiet night, guided by moonlight streaming softly through stained glass windows, Pip squeezed behind a row of ancient encyclopedias. There, he discovered a brittle, yellowed book with a peculiar, inviting scent. Curious, he nibbled the corner, which caused the book to fall open, revealing a hand-drawn map inked with tiny paw prints and a wedge of cheese. His heart racing with excitement, Pip carefully followed the map through winding stacks, beneath creaky floorboards and past sleeping cats. At last, he found a hollow beneath the librarian's heavy desk. Inside, wrapped in delicate parchment, was the most glorious hunk of cheese Pip had ever seen. With a grateful squeak, he tucked in, savoring not just the rich flavor of the cheese, but the thrill of discovery hidden within the library's endless wonders.
Under the cloak of night, the city's rooftops glistened from the rain, reflecting faint glimmers of distant streetlights. Amid the shadows, a gray pigeon waited patiently on a narrow ledge, a tiny cylinder fastened securely to its leg. Below, a man in a dark coat whispered softly, his breath visible in the cold air, then gently released the bird into the breeze. The pigeon took flight, wings beating steadily against the chill, guided by instinct through winding alleys and silent courtyards. Hidden within the cylinder was a slip of paper, covered in symbols and numbers scrawled in hurried ink, the kind only a select few could decipher. Through flashes of lightning and steady drizzle, the bird pressed on, its path unseen by the bustling world below. In a distant attic, a young woman watched the sky, heart racing with anticipation. When the pigeon finally landed, she carefully retrieved the message, her eyes scanning the code with practiced ease. She smiled softly, knowing that within those strange markings lay the answer to a question only she could ask. The pigeon cooed quietly, its mission complete, while the city slumbered on, unaware that history had just been carried on silent wings.
In the dimly lit parlor of the Ashcroft estate hung a portrait that unsettled every guest. The subject, a stern woman with piercing blue eyes, seemed to gaze beyond her gilded frame, following each movement with silent intensity. Whenever new visitors arrived, they would pause, shivering as if the temperature had dropped suddenly. Mrs. Linton, the current owner, insisted the painting was harmless, a relic of her great-aunt's collection, passed down through generations. But whispers grew among the staff, footsteps echoing when the room was empty, faint sighs drifting at midnight, and shadows flickering just beyond sight. One evening, young Clara, curious and unafraid, lingered after the others had left. She stood before the portrait, studying its cracked canvas and the fine brushstrokes that gave the eyes such life. A soft whisper brushed her ear, barely audible yet chilling. Startled, she turned quickly, but no one was there. Gathering her courage, she leaned closer, her breath fogging the glass. The eyes in the painting seemed to glisten with a strange light. "What do you want?" Clara whispered, voice trembling. The room fell silent, heavy with expectation. Then, just for a moment, the woman's painted lips curled into a knowing, almost mischievous smile. Clara fled, heart pounding wildly, leaving the portrait's secrets undisturbed for another night. Every night, after the city's lights faded and silence swept the glass towers, a small robot named Pico rolled through the empty streets. His mission was always the same: deliver a single letter to the dream mailbox at the heart of the new district. No one ever saw who sent the letters or who received them. But every morning, the mailbox was empty, and every evening, a new letter appeared in Pico's compartment, waiting silently. One night, as Pico placed the letter into the mailbox, he noticed a child watching from a nearby balcony. Their eyes met, curiosity flickering in the quiet air like a gentle spark. The next evening, the child left a note for Pico. "Who are the letters for?" Pico blinked, uncertain how to respond. That night, his compartment held 2 letters. One was addressed to the dream mailbox, the other for the child, for dreamers, from tomorrow. The child smiled, clutching the note tightly. From that day forward, more notes appeared. Pico delivered them all, forging silent connections between dreamers waiting for tomorrow's mysteries to arrive in the quiet hours before dawn.
Every morning, Clara wandered through her grandmother's wild, flower-filled yard, her eyes always drawn to the old iron gate at the garden's edge. Vines curled tightly around its bars, and the lock was heavy, rusty, and ancient, as if it had guarded secrets for centuries. No one ever spoke of what lay beyond that gate. One bright, sunny afternoon, Clara pressed her face close to the cold metal and peered through the gaps. She imagined secret paths winding through tall trees, hidden ponds shimmering in the sunlight, and perhaps even a friendly fox waiting just out of sight. Who had the key to such a mysterious place? Was it lost long ago, or hidden on purpose to keep something safe? Clara asked her grandmother, but she only smiled gently and said, "Some gates open when the time is right." The answer only made Clara's curiosity grow stronger. She searched the garden for clues, under smooth stones, inside empty flower pots, even beneath the old bird bath where the water glistened. She found nothing but soft earth, crawling ants, and bright ladybugs. As dusk settled and the sky turned soft pink, Clara sat quietly by the gate, listening to the breeze whisper through the leaves and the distant call of an owl. Maybe, she thought, the key wasn't a thing to find, but a moment to wait for, a moment when she would be ready. And so she waited patiently, wondering what stories the locked garden gate kept safe, waiting for the day she could finally discover them. Tommy, Lila, Ben, and Mia wandered deep into the woods, following a path none of them had noticed before. Their laughter faded as a peculiar sound caught their attention, a gentle, lilting tune drifting softly through the trees. Curiosity led them closer until they discovered a narrow stream, its waters shimmering in the dappled sunlight filtering through the leaves. The sound was clearer now, notes rising and falling as the water flowed over smooth, round stones and twisted around fallen branches. Each friend leaned in, enchanted by the melody that seemed to beckon them forward, inviting them to explore its source. Ben skipped a pebble across the water, and the tune changed, adding a playful twist that made them smile. Lila cupped her hands and splashed, sending a ripple that introduced a soaring harmony, as if the stream was responding to their touch. Tommy and Mia joined in, dipping sticks and toes, each movement weaving new sounds into the stream's song, creating a lively, ever-changing symphony. For hours, the friends played, crafting music with nothing but water and wonder, feeling a deep connection to the world around them. When the sun began to set, casting golden light over the forest, they promised to return, knowing they had found a secret place where friendship and magic flowed together, forever in tune.
Bolt was no ordinary delivery robot. Barely the size of a shoebox, he zipped from the depot, a hot pizza strapped securely to his back. The city was alive with chaos, honking cars, bustling crowds, and pigeons plotting on every corner. Bolt's sensors flared as he approached a busy intersection. In a blink, he darted between the legs of a street performer and under a vendor's cart, narrowly avoiding a toppled orange rolling across the pavement. A cyclist whizzed past. Bolt veered sharply, spinning on his wheels to dodge a stray skateboard that shot out unexpectedly. He shot down a narrow alley, only to find a towering stack of boxes blocking his path. With a quick calculation, Bolt extended his retractable arms, climbed up the obstacle, and soared over it, landing perfectly on the other side. The building he sought was finally in sight. As rain began to fall, Bolt's wheels gripped the slick pavement, racing up the ramp to the front door. He rang the bell, presenting the pizza just as the timer on his display hit 0. Mission complete. Bolt's lights flashed in triumph. The city buzzed on, unaware of the tiny hero weaving skillfully through its heart.
Every evening, as the sun dipped behind the crooked trees, a dense fog rolled across the old playground. The swings creaked softly, and the laughter of children faded into muffled echoes swallowed by the thickening mist. One by one, the children who played there at dusk began to disappear without a trace. First, it was Tommy, who loved to climb the rusted slide, his bright smile vanishing into the gray. Then came shy Lila, who always sat quietly on the edge of the sandbox, her small figure swallowed by the swirling fog. Parents searched frantically, calling names into the heavy air, but only silence answered back. On the fifth evening, 7-year-old Ben watched in horror as his friends vanished, their outlines dissolving into the swirling gray. He gripped the cold metal of the jungle gym, heart pounding wildly as shadows flickered and danced just beyond the fog's edge. A whispering sound, like distant giggling, drifted closer, chilling him to the bone. Ben squeezed his eyes shut tightly. When he opened them again, the fog had lifted completely. The playground was empty, save for a row of tiny footprints leading silently into the dark woods beyond. The next morning, the swings moved on their own in the gentle breeze, and the fog never returned. But the children did not come back, and no one ever played there again. Tim lay in bed, blankets pulled tightly up to his chin, while the pale moonlight cast eerie shadows that danced across his bedroom walls. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, making branches scrape softly against the window pane. He was used to the usual nighttime sounds, the rustling leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, but tonight felt different. Suddenly, a slow, deliberate crunch of gravel sounded just beneath his window. Tim's breath hitched. He pressed his ear against the pillow, heart pounding wildly in his chest. Another step, closer this time. He squeezed his eyes shut, willing himself to believe it was only his imagination. But then, a dark silhouette appeared, moving slowly past the window, a tall, hunched figure that paused as if listening for any sign of life inside. Tim's small hands clenched the edge of his blanket tightly. The figure raised a hand and tapped the glass in a slow, steady rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Tim barely dared to breathe, frozen in place. Then, without warning, the footsteps retreated, fading into the night shadows. Silence returned, heavy and complete. When morning sunlight finally spilled across the room, Tim crept cautiously to the window. In the soft earth below, a single muddy footprint remained, a chilling reminder that the night's visitor had been real after all. Every morning, before the sun had fully crested the distant peaks, the valley would echo with the thunder of enormous footsteps. Two giants, Marn and Grohl, met at the edge of the misty foothills, grinning at each other with the warmth of old friends. Without a word, they crouched, toes curling into the mossy earth, and waited for the first golden ray to touch the tallest summit. As light broke, they launched forward, each stride covering fields and rivers, scattering startled flocks, and sending curious marmots tumbling down rocky slopes. Marn favored the narrow ridges, leaping from stone to stone with surprising grace, while Grohl barreled through ancient forests, shaking pine cones from the boughs and sending birds into frantic flight. Villagers paused their morning chores to cheer, waving and shouting encouragement as the giants thundered past. At the finish, a solitary pine marked the end of their course. Marn arrived first today, breathless and laughing, but Grohl only shrugged and clapped his friend on the back. Tomorrow they would race again, not for victory, but for the joy of running together beneath the endless sky.
In a quiet suburb, 8-year-old Lila transformed her bedroom into a secret museum. Each shelf, lined with shoeboxes, held treasures discovered on her daily walks. A bottle cap glinting like a coin, a feather striped in blue, a marble smooth as river stones. She labeled each find with a careful hand: shiny metal disc found by the oak, sky feather, Tuesday morning, and arranged them by color, size, and the stories she imagined for them. Lila invited only those who promised to whisper and look closely. Her neighbor, Mr. Jensen, marveled at the pebble shaped like a tiny heart. Every object has a tale, Lila explained, guiding visitors with a proud smile. She kept a notebook, recording who donated what, the date, and any mysteries still unsolved. One day, a classmate brought a fragment of old tile, sparking a new display, pieces of the past. Lila's mini-museum grew, not just with objects, but with laughter, curiosity, and the stories that made each find shine brighter. Each new visitor added a story, weaving a tapestry of wonder that filled the small room with magic.
Wipers squeaked furiously as Anna gripped the steering wheel, her heartbeat louder than the rain pelting the windshield. The city was a maze of empty streets, neon signs smeared by water, casting eerie reflections on the slick pavement. In the rearview mirror, headlights glared, too close, unwavering like a predator locked on its prey. Anna pressed harder on the gas, tires spinning on slick asphalt, the engine roaring beneath her. Every turn she took, the pursuer matched, engine rumbling like distant thunder. Her phone buzzed insistently, but she dared not look. A sharp left onto a narrow alley. The car behind skidded, nearly crashing into a dumpster. Anna's breath fogged the glass as adrenaline surged. She spotted an open gate ahead, barely wide enough for her car. She darted through, scraping the side mirror against rusted metal. The headlights hesitated, then vanished into the night. Anna coasted to a stop, hands trembling on the wheel. Silence, save for the drumming rain and distant thunder. She waited, eyes fixed on the alley mouth. Nothing. After a minute, she exhaled slowly, heart still pounding fiercely. She knew the chase was over for now, but as she drove off into the wet darkness, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone, somewhere, was still watching her every move.
The old library had stood silent for decades, its doors sealed and windows dusted opaque. But tonight, as the clock struck 12, Anna slipped in through a side entrance, drawn by a dare and her own curiosity. The air inside was cold, thick with the scent of old paper and forgotten memories. Shelves loomed overhead, casting long shadows across the cracked marble floor. As Anna tiptoed deeper, her flashlight flickered, illuminating rows of ancient books untouched by time. Suddenly, a soft whisper curled through the silence, indistinct yet unmistakable, rising from somewhere between the stacks. Anna froze. The whispers grew clearer, voices overlapping, reciting words she couldn't quite understand. She followed the echoes, heart pounding, until she reached a reading table littered with open tomes. The voices swirled around her, pages fluttering as if caressed by invisible hands. Anna reached out to close a book, but the whispers surged into a single, chilling phrase: "You are not alone." Her flashlight died. In the darkness, the voices pressed closer, and Anna realized the library was waiting for her. Gus was Maplewood's most imaginative baker. One rainy morning, he mixed his secret dough with a usual pinch of curiosity and an unexpected dash of distraction. The result: a dozen golden-glazed donuts that shimmered oddly in the light, almost as if they held a secret glow. When Mrs. Pickles took a bite, she vanished with a soft pop, leaving only her umbrella spinning gently on the floor. Gus stared, stunned, as a swirling portal hovered mysteriously over the pastry tray. Hesitantly, he poked a donut and was instantly whisked away to medieval England, landing smack in the middle of a joust, flour-dusted and utterly confused. Gus dodged lances, offered knights a cruller, and was promptly knighted for inventing the royal ring. With another cautious nibble, he tumbled to ancient Egypt, where a pharaoh declared his cronut a divine gift from the gods. Each bite sent him spinning wildly through eras, dodging dinosaurs, dancing at disco parties, and even serving scones to robots in a gleaming future. Finally, Gus returned home, clutching a knight's helmet and a pyramid-shaped loaf as souvenirs. From then on, he carefully labeled his pastries, for local consumption only. At exactly midnight, Clara slipped through the creaking doors of the old library, drawn by a rumor whispered around town. The shelves loomed, heavy with dust and stories, but one book waited for her on the central table, its cover ink-dark, its title shifting like a shadow. As she opened it, words curled off the page, forming shapes in the air. "Ask, and I will tell you a secret," the book breathed softly. Clara, heart-pounding, whispered her question: "What will happen tomorrow?" Ink pooled on the page, forming a chilling sentence. "A stranger in red will knock at your door, bearing news you do not wish to hear." Clara shivered, the cold weight of prophecy settling deep inside her. She snapped the book shut and hurried home, trying to dismiss the warning as a trick of her imagination. But as the clock struck midnight again, a soft knock echoed through her silent house. Through the peephole stood a figure in a crimson coat, just as the book had foretold. Clara's breath caught in her throat. The library's secrets, it seemed, were never just stories, and some truths whispered in the dark were impossible to ignore.